This episode was co-produced with Gebert Rüf Stiftung, which makes science effective by initiating impact-oriented innovation projects. This year, they're celebrating their 25th anniversary and are keen to highlight the impact their initial funding has had on Swiss entrepreneurs.
I came in with Venture Leaders and he came in with Venture Kick. And when he came in with Kick, I was like, yeah, but that sounds very brutal. And he was saying, that's the point. We need to kick.
That's the name of the game. So we'll kick them really.
Kick them out of the lab.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Jordi, Beat, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Sylvan. Great to be here.
Hello, Sylvan.
You are the co-founders of Venturelab and co-managing directors of Venture Kick, two very important initiatives here in Switzerland for the whole startup ecosystem. Before we talk about them, I actually want to know more about what brought you to entrepreneurship. So, Beat, the first question to you, how did you get started in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, when I studied at the University of St. Gallen, entrepreneurship, venture capital and all that stuff was not the topic at all. And so basically I ended up in entrepreneurship more like a virgin with a child. So I started in a strategy and marketing consulting firm, and there we were confronted with a request of UBS that actually wanted to work with startups. And so we proposed them, why don't we start an institute for young entrepreneurs? That was the starting point of IFJ. Mm-hmm. And I basically had to take over this mandate. It was kind of 10% of my job. And then I learned that working with startups, with entrepreneurs, was much more exciting and fun than doing mandates in key account management or marketing strategy for big corporates. And so I naturally kind of focused my time on this topic. And year over year, basically the 10% grew to 100%. And then I started to add people to the team. And that's what brought me here.
That was a very organic, a very natural growth due to the interest that this initial project sparked in you, I guess.
Yeah, so kind of for me, the standard career path at the time was starting with a big corporate and then do this corporate career. But I learned that the military service that I have a hard time to be bossed around. So basically so I wanted to be my own boss. And so basically that's how I started to become an entrepreneur.
Amazing. And Jordi, how did you get started in entrepreneurship and then also met Beat along the way?
Well, actually, I probably had a little bit of a similar experience when I did the EPFL back in 96. I completed my master. And startup entrepreneurship was just not on the map. I mean, business was not a topic. I often share I wanted to actually know more about business, and the only training about business was accounting. So quite far from anything from entrepreneurship. So I went into entrepreneurship actually through after starting also in consulting. But from the start, I was really interested. And there was then a training, an executive MBA in entrepreneurship and technology management called MOT at EPFL, who was across business universities, EPFL and American University, University of Austin. And that's what I jumped in there just to have, to complete, to get exposure. And that's where I met my first co-founder. I had a first experience during that program, and then went into my first startup, which was with X03. And when X03 was finished, during that period, I was often invited actually to share my experience because with the company, we raised some venture capital. Mm-hmm. We were one of the major fundraising in Geneva at the time, and really in this scene who emerged. At the time, it was the startup bubble, but still quite an amazing experience where we built a company. So being invited in contact with different actors, that's how I actually ended up meeting on the Pascal Fondement and Nets during that period, because we were invited to share our startup experience. When the startup unfortunately didn't work and I had to leave, I joined the EPFL Innovation Park, and there as coach. And subsequently, I was asked to join a program who was a little bit of a predecessor of Venturelab, with a training program called Create. And that's when actually IFJ and Beat came in, and where our paths started crossing, because IFJ actually was the one that started really Venturelab.
Tell me a bit more about that, Beat. You actually won a public tender, right, to then take over the program?
Yeah, so when basically I organically started to grow this Institute for Young Entrepreneurs, we grew to a small team of 7 people operating in this field, offering trainings for startups, working with UBS and other sponsors. And then one day we were approached by CTI or InnoSwiss today, whether we don't want to participate in this public tender. It was a 16 million contract over 4 years, so very substantial. And so we decided, why not? And so we worked day and night to put an offer out, and then to our big surprise, we actually won against 2 consortia consisting of the highest case, the ETH, GPFL, Universities of Applied Sciences, and then we got that contract, and we needed kind of to execute, and so we also had no link to Romandie, and so then that was kind of the famous day or dinner in Bern, when we actually saw each other for the first night. And at the end of the dinner, we concluded that we would partner up and do that together.
That's an amazing story. Because I remember, Jordi, you told me before we started recording, you told me, you thought it's done with the coaching, you would move on to something different, maybe start another company again. And then the IFJ tender happened and you decided to continue.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I have to give it that really Beat convinced me, or that our discussion gave really was the burst of thinking, the really something I always thought there was really, and it was great that, these programs were being built at the time. Really, the investment having the today InnoSwiss, at the time CTI, deciding, yes, we have to invest, we'll do some more support for entrepreneurship, was really a great foundation. But for me, of course, I was on the side of one of the consortia that actually had lost against Beat and the whole team. And I thought, for me, it's actually just, natural next step evolution, probably going back, to my next entrepreneurial experience. And that's true that going to this meeting, I remember just that would be great to meet Beat. Beat already had some reputation as an entrepreneur. And I thought, hey, that's always a good thing to meet. And let's see, what the ideas were. And then the more we discussed, the more I thought, hey, there is really working together an opportunity to actually develop this program and make it having the maximum impact for entrepreneurship.
Oh, amazing. And Beat, Jordi mentioned different initiatives, right? IFJ, there's of course Venturelab, there's also Venture Kick. Can you give us a quick overview what these different initiatives actually are, to give people a good starting point who might not be that familiar yet?
Yeah, well, so it really goes back to that 89 experience with UBS, and kind of the basic business case that we execute is the Robin Hood business case. So we always want to serve the startups, and we're aware of the fact that the startups cannot afford to pay for support. And so always, if there is kind of an actor, an institution, a third party who is interested in working with startups and has some budget, then basically we're there to kind of figure out what could be done to kind of support the startups, and at the same time also achieve the goals of this partner. And so that's how we ended up kind of building a collection of different programs that are kind of financed by different partners, be it foundations in the case of VentureKick, or be it corporates, a lot of different corporates in the Venturelab context, financing the venture leaders programs, for example, or supporting the top 100, or also at IFJ, where we incorporate more than 3,000 companies each year. That's where crazy. We also have sponsors like a Swisscom or a Helvetia or a Post Finance that are interested in working with new companies, and therefore kind of pay for our efforts in offering and supporting startups.
Is it fair to say that IFJ is really more focused on the incorporation of a company, really the legal aspect there?
So one could say that IFJ is supporting everybody who really wants to start a new company, and independent whether there is some kind of scalable business case or innovation behind. It's just kind of a new company. And on the other hand, Venturelab is focused on, I would say, the top 3% of all these new incorporated companies who really want to scale, who have growth ambition and growth potential, and also need maybe venture capital to execute their plans. And so it's really kind of a completely different target group. And if we talk about VentureKick, then we have another difference there. It's only for spin-off projects of universities. So you need to have a link to a Swiss university, and you're not yet incorporated as a company. So that's what it takes if you want to participate in VentureKick. But else, VentureKick and Venturelab cater to the same target population.
Got it. Thank you for this overview. I do want to focus a bit on VentureKick now to see what you actually focus on there. So you say that you support companies on their global expansion path. What are the companies? What sort of companies are you looking for?
So maybe the support of the global expansion path is more the mission of Venturelab with the venture leaders programs, etc. So VentureKick is really kind of kicking out innovative projects of the labs of the Swiss universities and kicking them in front of investors, kind of to get the first means to really start executing on their mission. And VentureKick is really kind of limited to a 9-month experience. Is kind of 3 hurdles. First you get 10K, and the better half then gets a 40K, and again the better half will get the 100K after 9 months. So you come to VentureKick if you're pregnant with a business idea, with this kind of academic background. And after 9 months, in the best case, if you survive that selection process, you will be awarded this 150K to really give birth to your company.
Mm-hmm. And Jordi, this focus on university spin-offs, so to say, the technology that comes from universities, is that the focus because you see a higher success rate or higher success potential from startups coming from the university background?
Well, I think it's partly when it relates to one of the initiatives. I mean, fundamentally at Venturelab, when we look at all the Venturelab programs, again, we take all of the startups, which are across the board. Now, when we focus around, when it is around like typically the VentureKick, I mean, I think it's first because there is a very strong, innovation foundation. This innovation foundation stems out of the research, the high quality institution profiles, entrepreneurs that you can find, and that's definitely, of course, one of the things we want to have. It's also a way to anchor in Switzerland. I mean, it's when you develop, I mean, we have to bring this, I would say, economical development, this sort of wealth creation has to be also related to Switzerland. And one way to relate it to Switzerland is also to make sure there are links with the institution here so that we help reinforcing this virtuous cycle of having strong research, creating startups, but staying in touch and having strong links towards all of the research ecosystem. So I think it's really a virtuous cycle that says it's not only institutions of research who do great startup. At Venturelab, we serve broadly. But when it comes to some of these programs, yes, this link really adds, because then you have great profile, very strong intellectual property very often, or very strong science on the back of the company. So that's where the strategy is.
And how does the selection process look like when a university startup applies to get supported by VentureKick? How do you select the most promising startups to join the program?
Well, it's several dimensions. So first, we look at all the applications. I think we receive over 700 applications per year. We have, we have quite a broad base. We can 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, we can bring into the jury. And to bring them there, we look at the different quality of the projects, background of the entrepreneur, background already of where, if we see that there is already an entrepreneurial, at least a first entrepreneurial dynamic that is present, and we actually select on, do we have people who are going to carry, because we strongly believe the people are the heart of entrepreneurship. So, and a projects which make sense, and then they can come to the stage 1. So, and there the decision is being taken by the jury. We have a pool of jury today consists of over 170 people across Switzerland who are joining the sessions, and they do the selection at the end, even international. Yeah. That's perfect. With the online actually. So that's they do the first selection at every stage, and they select. At the first stage, we call it half and half. Half of the weight is on the entrepreneur, his ability to pitch, and the team. So it's on the people. And the other half is on the fundamentals of the project. Do we have a first project that makes sense? There seems to be a solid innovation. There is something behind. But it's very early. We are very early stage. I mean, we're before company creation. And at that stage, we don't even ask usually for any kind of, we ask for first indications of, have they given some thought around, the money? Have they given some thought around, the I would say what it would look like as a business, but we don't make it a requirement, because we want to help. And that's where the names comes from. The Venture Kick, it's the kicking out of the lab. I have to say here, we have an anecdote where at first, when Beat came in with that name, so I can say I came in with Venture Leaders, and he came in with Venture Kick. And when he came in with Kick, I was like, yeah, but that sounds very brutal. I mean, and he was saying, that's the point. We need to kick.
That's the name of the game. So we'll kick them really.
Kick them out of the lab. Kick them out of the lab. And then after that, I thought, makes sense actually, because probably is the best philosophy. So that's how we went on. So the idea is really to help. And you have to remember, I mean, when we launched VentureKick, it was 2007. I mean, at the time, it was really pioneer. Of course. I mean, today, I think that when people look, there are so many schemes that it sounds, I wouldn't say obvious, but more, I mean, now we've evolved. And of course, we keep on some sort of leadership in doing the program, and we're the largest, and we really have turned this into additional dimensions. But back in 2007, I mean, the fact of coming, there was nothing. Yeah. And the fact of coming with a program that was literally saying, okay, look, you come up, you will have one morning. So the startups comes, you have 20 minutes to pitch, you apply with a 3-pager, and basically you can get 10,000. Boom. And you have the answer the same afternoon. Huh? You come in the morning at 3:00 latest in the afternoon, whether you have received 10,000, and then you have 3 months to come back. And this is really, it's really working. And that was really something that was new at the time. I mean, there was nothing, there was no one else. And it's really helped actually showing that, and that's one of the things about the selection. It is betting on people that have something solid, but you don't know where it will go. And to really stress test very early on, like, hey, here is some guidance, but because it not only goes with the money, it also goes with what we call kicker scams. So we have 2 days of interactions, after we give the money, where we support, help on shaping what is the plan, what is the action plan, and also connecting a lot, so use the jury members, use the alumni today a lot, but, connect, go to see, of course, priority customers, talk to potential customers, talk to potential investors, talk to experts, so that you shape the business case. And that's how the selection works. Stage 1, we do that. We select today a bit more than half at every session. I mean, it's over 90 projects every year that enter the pipeline.
That's a lot.
We will celebrate over 1,000, so we will pass our 1,000 projects supported this year.
Amazing.
And maybe kind of coming back to the question, why is it limited to university spin-offs? So it really also comes back to the financing of the program. It's foundations. It's the Gebert Rüf and the Hans Gönners Stiftung who basically were the first ones to believe in that concept in 2007. And as the means were limited already at the time, and they're extremely limited also today, it's just not possible kind of to go abroad and broader than spin-offs of universities. So we quadrupled the number of applications compared to 10 years ago, and we're only able to grow the pipeline by 40%. So the limiting factor is really kind of the money. But still, we have given out more than 45 million now to these 900 projects.
Wow. When you were starting out, right, there was no real startup ecosystem established as we know it today. And you were really the pioneers to start this initiative. When you did so, were you ever afraid that it's not gonna work, or thought about stopping it? Because that was a long way and required a lot of persistence and energy to put into to get you where you are today.
So I would say we were not in a situation that we woke up one morning and said, now we have a great business idea and now let's start a business. So we really were kind of a service provider from day one, and still are. So we provide services to third party, to corporates, to foundations, to states who want to support startups. And so with this, we just were able to grow now to 50 people and growing more and more of these programs, and hope to keep doing that and having fun along the way.
The most important factor. Yeah, absolutely.
The essence of it.
Exactly. So one other thing I want to talk about are some challenges along the way. So one thing you mentioned now is, of course, the financing. You need support from foundations or from the public sector like CTI or InnoSwiss today. Is that sometimes stressful that you have to go through a public tender over and over again, or, get the money in and sort of have to fight for it every now and then again?
So I would say it keeps you awake, it keeps you fit. So I think it's only the pressure that keeps you growing. So only with the highest pressure you will end up as a diamond, so to say. No, right. So we're not yet there. But I would say it really it's needed, and it's good that it is like this. So we really appreciate to have competition.
Do you think that it got easier or more difficult to acquire the funds for your initiatives? Because the startup ecosystem is evolving, it's growing. Is that supporting for you to raise the funds, or is it more challenging because there's also more competition?
Well, there is, of course, increased competition. So it creates a challenge, as Beat says. It forces, to renew. It forces to evolve every time. Have to say that, of course, there are many actors, public and private. A lot of public actors are also active here. So it creates, for us, situations where we are a private company. So, you don't position, don't have exactly the same means. So these kind of things are of course, a form of challenge that is like in any environment where the competition becomes denser, forces you to move. And it is, we have to say, of course, it is pressure because you regularly have to restate, and invest into defending what you want to fight for. So that's one thing. The positive point, of course, is as the ecosystem grows, there are more and more opportunities that are there, and more people. We can work with partners which want to use the Swiss ecosystem and want to actually work with the Swiss startups. So this opens, I would say, great opportunities. One additional point is one thing which we worked a lot amongst the initiatives that we mentioned. There is the top 100, for example, and the top 100 was also to show that not only we have startups which are great, but that they really have an amazing impact, and these actually also adds to the credibility of the startups, because I mean, back in, the 2010, working with a startup was often regarded like, hey, who is that? Today, it is, people see there is real, potential, and there is real development opportunities to be done, even if you're a large corporate. And that's where I would say it opens a lot of avenues on that front.
Yeah. And I wonder, Beat, you mentioned at the beginning that startups, they don't have the money to pay for the support services. So, of course, you need foundations and the state basically to support. Have you ever thought about a business model that would also allow you to get more independent from these? I could think about investing, of course, in startups to then have a return in the long run.
So, as I was kind of the virgin, getting a baby with entrepreneurship, and now kind of growing to a 50 people operation with these two companies, I was also a virgin becoming a business angel one day. So it was actually also UBS. So I was writing the business plan of jobs.ch in kind of 99. And presenting that to my sponsor, UBS at IFJ, they say, well, the two advisors in this business plan should also become investors and should become board member of jobs.ch. And so I was forced to become a business angel. And I also then was a business angel of B2V, Brains to Ventures. And so I was very lucky, kind of that my first business angel engagement turned out to be very successful, and that then gave me the means to also invest as a business angel in the last 20 years. And so but one thing is kind of our business operation with IFJ and Venturelab, which is purely service provider. And there is the private dimension where from time to time, if the opportunity comes up, if founders ask me whether I don't want to support them also as an investor or as a board member. So I did this sometimes in the past and keep doing that, because it's just adding to the fun of it, but that's more kind of the hobby part of it. So if you want to really come up with a business model in financing, then you need to raise a venture capital fund if you want to be serious about it, and that's a different kind of thing that what we do with this service business model in Venturelab and Venture.
So you really stayed focused on your success path, basically, because I imagine it would be very tempting to then say, oh, we also do this, we also start our own fund, for example, but you really stayed focused on what got you there, and that has proven to be very successful.
Yeah, it's just I said I started 30 years ago with a 10% part of a job, and now we're kind of 50 people operation, and since kind of ever since this more than 30 years now, we were growing. So I think there was no year since we started when we did not grow. And so if you kind of continuously grow and you have new programs coming up, then you started with Venturelab in 2004, then in 2007 there was kind of Venture Kick, in 2011 there was the top 100. So we increased the venture leaders from one program in 2005 now to 6 different venture leaders around the globe. So it's just our days only count 24 hours. Sometimes we add the night to it, but it's not sufficient.
I see. And you talk about growth. So you're growing every year. Do you think that you will eventually be too big for Switzerland, that you will not find enough interesting startups to support and to take into your programs, Jordi?
So it's interesting because this question often comes, and I would say so far we have definitely not exhausted the potential. I mean, I was exactly this morning talking about this. If you look at the percentage of PhDs and masters in this country who go towards the entrepreneurial path and not even creating companies, going into the training, we're talking few percent. I mean, and we should reach at least 10 or 15 or 20%. And this is really then in terms of company creation, something where in terms that there is a huge potential, and that's in the academics. Outside, there is still also a lot of potential. People, we have amazing companies here in innovation sectors, in high tech. I mean, if you look today, the big companies we know in IT are suffering, and some of them are letting people go. All these people have a potential one day to become entrepreneurs. We've seen that over and over as well. Right. So on one hand, answer is I don't think that's really a big piece. We do international. I mean, we take companies international and we welcome international entrepreneurs also, so in some for programs, in scale of boot camps, we work a lot also with scale ups. I mean, one thing that we have been also continuously developing is that with the alumni becoming more mature, those companies also grow and want other type of support or additional, so we can support them as well in their path a little bit further along the way. It's not that's one dimension that no, we have a lot of potential. The second dimension is if you look really at the models which are qualitatively speaking serving really strongly, and here we can take examples of the Y Combinator in the Valley or things like this. They never went international per se. They more focused on delivering high quality, the best quality possible, using the ecosystem. And here we have an amazing ecosystem for this. So for the time being, we still do a lot of international activities. I continue. I mean, again, in a month from now, we will be at the Mobile World Congress. We will be having teams of entrepreneurs, people working there. So, it's finding the right balance. The focus helps us keep the quality.
Yeah, and also in the past, so we've doing programs in South Africa. Jordi was doing programs in Sub-Saharan Africa and all around the globe. But that's kind of really opportunistically. If again somebody approaches us also on the global level and wants us to execute any kind of interesting job in that startup arena, then if we have the bandwidth and if it's fun, then we might accept and do also stuff abroad.
I really like your philosophy of, hey, it makes sense, but it's also fun. I think that's a really cool philosophy to bring to the table. I really like that.
This should be for any startup or any way, because it's going to be hard, and that's one thing in the values we always say, it has to remain fun.
Yeah.
The day the fun goes out of it, hard is part of it, no question.
Sure.
But the day the fun goes out of it means probably you have to question.
Exactly.
But I think we're privileged to be in a space where the fun keeps coming.
Definitely. We already talked about the importance of, getting the funding together, and we do this episode in collaboration with the Gebert Rüf Stiftung. So I also want to talk a bit about their role along your journey. So the first question here is, why is actually philanthropic support needed for initiatives like you do?
I would say Gebert Rüf Foundation is really unique in a sense that as a foundation, it is what they decided that it is their role kind of to bridge science to market. And so basically they look for opportunities how to do that in the best possible way. And so, they were supporting the NETS program with Jordi before. When we got the Venturelab mandate, they said, okay, we now stop this international program. I read the press release about that and then thought, okay, that's a pity, because in that InnoSwiss program, in the national training program for high-tech startup, there was no international dimension. So basically, I just did a cold call to Gebert Rüf Foundation and said, by the way, it's really a pity, so why don't you kind of consider to re-enter that arena? And so we came up with more elaborated new proposal called Venture Leaders with this international dimension. And then they thought or said that makes sense. Let's give it a shot. We give you 2 years to prove it, and then you need to get continuation by InnoSwiss, what they did. And so that was kind of the starting point of Venture Leaders. Without the Gebert Rüf Foundation, Venture Leaders would not exist. And the same then after these 2 years of Venture Leaders, when we had the debriefing in Basel, again then Pascal Vonmont asked the question, so do you have any idea what could be done kind of to get more spin-offs in Switzerland, maybe even double the number of spin-offs in Switzerland? And then we scratched our heads and then came up with the proposal of Venture Kick. So that why not doing something at the very early stage with a very low kind of barrier to entry, and proposed this scheme, and Gebert Rüf and then also Ernst Göhner Stiftung decided to give it a try. And I think it's just kind of such foundations are completely different from the state, because they're much faster in their decision-making process. They're much more kind of entrepreneurial, and especially the Gebert Rüf Foundation is entrepreneurial. So
they can really take risks on experimenting new projects. I mean, because actually, if you look at the Venture Kick, that was typically a risky project. So if you ask us, would we have ever stopped? I mean, I don't think it ever crossed our mind 1 second. But I can imagine that before you launch this and you say, we're going to give at the beginning we were actually granting. It was pure grants, and it was 130,000. So you launch a mechanism where you're going to grant 130,000 per case to young entrepreneurs in that field. I mean, that was, it could have, I would say, ended up in a disaster, maybe not, but definitely it could have ended up in yielding almost no results in after distributing I don't know how many millions. So that's and that's really where I think Gebert Rüf in this field, in entrepreneurship, in building this transfer has really played a role, and constantly continuing, and also seeing. I think that's where we have really the privilege where Venture Kick, not only they thought, okay, it's continuing, but continuously evolving the model and working, at evolving the model, supporting in the continuation, because I think a program like Venture Kick and Venture Leaders, and what we're also trying is to add the value at the end through what the foundation that has been built can be used for the entrepreneurs. And today that's a big dimension, that the fact that it has been maintained, it has been continuously evolving, and has such an alumni and this track record becomes an asset for the next generation. So the next generation can benefit from having a program that is there with a credibility, with quite a network, with a lot of acquired and insight knowledge in helping, used by other, connecting. It's not only the entrepreneurs. I mean, the whole pool of jury benefits a lot from connecting to each other. This strengthens this one-on-one, relation in the network. So all of these becomes foundations which, yet again, would not be possible.
We even invited the state to participate in Venture Kick when the whole concept was elaborated, everything, and they declined. So, okay, that's not for us. And so it's really without the foundations, especially without the Gebert Rüf Foundation, the startup ecosystem in Switzerland would look completely different. So it would not exist, because if without Gebert Rüf giving us the chance to or without asking us what could be done, we wouldn't have even come up with the concept. And without their money, we wouldn't have been able to try it out.
And I think this is a great summary to show that many initiatives, or some initiatives that we know today, would not exist without the foundations. But on top of that, also how you create something new together beyond the pure financial contribution. I think that's also a very strong statement to really, have a strong ecosystem in the end.
Yeah, and so yesterday there was this startup ticker brunch, and so kind of showing that the money raised in Switzerland by startups has grown to nearly 4 billion, 30% more than last year. And if you consider that 40% of this amount, so 1.6 billion, has gone and has been collected by VentureKick alumni. That also shows that VentureKick plays a role today.
Absolutely. And that brings me to the next question, because around 90% of Swiss startups have in some form participated in your initiatives, which is a mind-blowing number if you think about it. So can we officially call you the godfathers of the Swiss startup ecosystem?
No.
Why not?
No. The contributors, which are really, because it comes back. First, I think it's really important to stress out that yes, when we started, there were very little things, but we were also not alone. I think, there were many pioneers that were out there and that pushed across all. And namely, the Gebert Rüf, but I think also from several dimensions. The state, the CTI played a role. CTI was behind Venturelab, and Venturelab was also one of the foundations that helped to say, hey, if there is this model, we can actually leverage. It was also based on the experience of Venturelab, where we were having quite a few people with projects were saying, but what's the best way to kick them out of the lab? I think that was exactly, we're seeing them in the lab and we're saying, hey, but we need something more. So this goes hand in hand, and there were several other actors out there who helped. So now I think that one thing, yes, we can be definitely proud of, is that we kept or we instilled and pushed the drive or the momentum at the time. And one thing I think I can share on behalf of Venturelab or Beat, because Beat came up with this, was this back in 2003, even before Venturelab, Switzerland or Alinghi won the America's Cup. And that was a sentence that was, if a country that doesn't even have a sea can actually win the America's Cup, which is one of the most prestigious sailing competition, well, we definitely can make global leaders. And this ambition, probably we contributed, we were always pushing, and it's true that back then it was not obvious. It was very often looked at, we're Swiss startups, we're small. No, we are here out of Switzerland, have everything we need in order to make global leaders. And this is something that probably, and we had the chance, but we fought for it, that we brought, and we kept bringing, we can be global leaders starting out of Switzerland.
I love that spirit. I think we need more of that in Switzerland. Thank you for supporting that. And if you look back, Beat, over the past years, how has the ecosystem evolved?
In a great way. So a lot of new initiatives, a lot of new players, especially what I appreciate a lot is all that successful founders that now kind of come back and contribute by coaching, by mentoring, by investing in the next generation of startups. So actually, it's like probably, that when we had this exit with Jobs, that was kind of one of the first big exits. And also there, looking back at the founders there, all of them also started with this contributing, investing in the next generation. Now we have kind of a much broader scene of serial entrepreneurs, and to see that really makes me proud to be part of that ecosystem.
Definitely. And if we look into the future, Jordi, what is next for all your initiatives, and where are we headed as an ecosystem?
So there is always one thing is already maintaining the foundation and keep growing. People are always like, okay, what's new? And I'm like, well, we have a Venture Leaders platform, a VentureKick platform. VentureKick, the potential is not yet exhausted by far. So we are this year at 6.3 million. What's next? I would say we would need a 10 million budget. That's one thing we're really looking after. We have a potential to do 4, 5, 6. So we are now at 6. We want to hopefully go to more venture leaders. So I think one thing is maintaining the base. growing and developing as well. And this is really the advanced financing. We are doing this today. And one thing as well, I think in Switzerland, and we have initiatives in this front with some of our partners like Six on the whole front of, the exits, the IPOs, the whole, that has been one of the challenges I think that we are still facing in Switzerland is making sure, because it is a positive cycle. Sometimes we can even feel among the resistance that, but startups, when they exit, do we lose them? And I'm like, but that's part of really this ecosystem that grows and creates amazing value. Mm-hmm. So that's really the avenue that we want to see. Reinforcing definitely in this path some of the programs. For us, of course, we know that we'll have to renew with the different partners. There are tenders coming that will have to be present. There are many things that are on the path. That's, I think, amongst the core points that I'm looking at. As an ecosystem as a whole, of course, I mean, I think that one of the points that we really have and we continue pushing and looking at is on one hand, the whole work of financing. I mean, that's on the table of many people. We're getting better. We see the numbers, we see mega rounds, but again, and the other one is the whole work. There is a huge potential to work also with the partners, the corporates, all of the people that the startups can now also, because once the startups have the program, the financing, you have to work with the your customers. Of course, basically in Switzerland we're very good in B2B. We serve and we give amazing products, so I really think that that's essential. And finally, this we continue, it's the international exposure. I mean, we know that our startups are by definition born to be global, because it's Swiss markets for high-tech startups is what it is. That's the nature of things. We know that, everyone knows that. So being more performant, keeping going faster, is definitely of essence. That's to me what I see going there. So it's a constantly. I mean, there is no innovation. The beauty of innovation is that it stays there. I mean, the prime material, is always the entrepreneurs. So this hasn't changed in the past 15 years. It's identifying the right people and give them as many tools, means, access, in order for them to be able to perform as a team, meet the right people, make it happen. Exactly.
So the future looks not only very exciting and actually also very fun for both of you. I think there's still a lot of cool stuff coming your way.
And faster and faster. I mean, look at one of the discussions that we were having this morning, again, in one of the meeting I was look at the end of last year, how suddenly AI, which is already in our lives, in many, many things people don't know, has suddenly become even much more broadly, known with the tools like, so ChatGPT, everyone talks about it, but already before, regenerative AI, that's one domain. And then you take health. I mean, incredible what we've seen. And this opens tons of opportunities where we will always need support for this innovation, to help at the beginning and make it stronger so that it can, because the rest of the world ecosystem also evolves. No? Of course. We're not the only one to do innovation ecosystems.
Exactly. So to wrap up the conversation today, I have some rapid fire questions for you. I ask you a simple question and you have to answer in one sentence. You ready?
Go for it.
Let's start with you, Beat. What was the best lesson that entrepreneurship has taught you?
Yeah, you hit the wall and you stand up and walk again.
I like that. And Jordi, why should you start a company versus not starting it?
Well, you definitely need to start, because in terms of personal development and in terms of career challenge, it's probably the best and most challenging that you can find.
And Beat, do you have any career regrets?
No, not at all.
What about you, Jordi?
At this stage, not comes to mind either.
Beat, what do you prefer, lakes or mountains?
Yeah, so sailing is on the lake, so lake.
Clear choice.
Or even the sea.
Fantastic. And Jordi, for you, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Clear
Everyone
choice.
knows that if the coffee machine is not closed, something is wrong.
Exactly. And Beat, how often do you feel the urge to move on to something new projects, new ideas, new investments, new partners, whatever it might be?
So I'm spoiled with new stuff every day, and so I don't feel the urge. So I just try to handle as much as I can.
Nice.
Can I make a sentence on this because I love it? Actually, in order for a train to go very fast, meaning innovation, you need to have very solid rails, meaning very solid foundation. So between new and things, you need to have the right balance. That's just a comment that is not a fire answer, but I think I always love that image. Venture Kick, all these programs are very solid rails, and then innovation can fly on it.
Otherwise, everything will fall apart.
You need something to be stable, huh?
Yeah. And the last one I want to ask to both of you, Beat, what are you not willing to give up?
I would say, the fun.
I like that. Yeah. And you, Jordi?
Well, I can only share this one, and of course, I think somebody to never forget it's a balancing act as well, in the sense, we have family, we have other dimensions. So not giving up for me is the proper balance with fun in it.
Amazing. I think this is a beautiful statement to end the conversation today. Beat, Jordi, thank you so much for not only coming on the show, but also for everything that you do for the ecosystem. It's amazing to see how far you've come and how far and how much further you actually go. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you very much, Sylvain, for having us.
Thank you, Sylvain.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.